Hello, this is Virtualis the Chess Noob, learning and having fun with chess. At the time I'm recording this video, I'm competing in my first online chess.com tournament. Currently, it's round one of the lower rated Aussies 2021 Christmas Challenge, which is open to players rated under 1250 in the Team Australia Club. The time control for each move is 3 days, though obviously most games complete rather more quickly than that. It's still early days, round one is only 11% complete, but I've been able to chalk up some wins, including this game, which at this time is listed as the biggest upset so far. At the beginning of this round in the daily format, I was rated at 701 and my opponent at 1209. Please enjoy! So this game was played in the lower rated Aussies 2021 Christmas Challenge round one, as you can see. Time control, 1 move per 3 days. And at the end of the game, I picked up almost, I think, 100 ELO points. Quick look at the review. So we were sort of fairly balanced for most of the game, and then a series of moves led me to have a commanding lead and then a win. I suppose I was pretty happy with this accuracy, 80%. And I had a mix of good moves. The blunder we'll see in context, I think. Now let's have a look at the analysis. And in this game, I played white, opponent black. I started with e4, opponent played the Sicilian Defense, c5. And one of the things I usually do against a Sicilian is I play the Grand Prix Attack. So knight c3, opponent develops knight c6, and now the Grand Prix with f4, beginning of the Grand Prix Attack. And I was sort of inspired to play the Grand Prix actually after watching another YouTuber, sort of a big YouTuber, so Gotham Chess, and his description of the Grand Prix against the Sicilian. Opponent plays e6. I now develop a knight f3. They develop bishop e7, and now I play bishop c4. And my next moves is to is d3. The opponent develops knight f6. I now short castles, and the plan here really is to put queen here, put the knight here, develop queen here, push that pawn forward, and that's what I do in the next series of moves. So opponent also short castles. I slide queen to e1. Opponent plays a6, and just to stop an attack potentially on my bishop, I play a4, basically stopping any potential queenside expansion with the pawns. I wanted to keep my bishop where it was. Opponent develops bishop d7. I now create the chain of pawns. And what I actually want is for the opponent to, in fact, capture and maybe get greedy, because I actually want to open this file, the F file, for the rook. So they take the bait, so they capture. I now move the knight g5. And the idea here is once queen goes to h4, there's a potential very powerful attack on that pawn on h7. Now, of course, that's at the moment defended by the opponent's knight, but if they do what I think they might do, which is to capture down this chain of pawns, I can very easily whack that knight with my rook. And they take the bait. So they capture my next pawn down the chain. Now queen goes to h4. They capture again. And as you can see, that was a very, very serious blunder for black. As long as I find the correct move, which is in fact rook captures knight, now with a potential checkmate threat. And very pleased to see that the chess.com algorithm thought that this was a potential brilliant move. Now, I actually don't play perfectly after this point. So the opponent does what I expect, which is to play h6, potentially having attack on the knight. Of course, you know, it looks like that rook is hanging as well. And the best move here, as you can see, that was a serious mistake, mate in 6. Now, I didn't see what was the best move, but the best move here is to play queen to e4. Again, now with a checkmate threat. And so that means that the opponent cannot immediately capture the rook. They must get rid of the knight first. But however, if they do this, I now have a second mating attack, which is bishop captures pawn on d3. Again, still staring at the h7 square. And in fact, this attack cannot be prevented now. So the opponent can you know, potentially slow things down by, you know, bringing out trying to block with the bishop, but of course that doesn't really achieve anything. Can potentially, you know, try to block again, but once again that really doesn't achieve anything very much, because rook then captures, forced to capture, you know, check, and then checkmate. So that is a absolutely devastating line of attack, and also a line which admittedly I did not see in the actual game. I thought that my only possible attack here was a rook captures pawn, which is what I did, and this is the blunder that we saw previously. However, from what I could see, this was still actually very, very good for me, depending on how the opponent played, because basically if they don't do something about this rook, then that is a potential checkmate next turn. So pretty much the opponent is forced to capture the rook. But at this point, I now have a number of possibilities as well. So I can now, of course, capture that pawn. And from what I can tell, you know, again, this is another checkmating threat. So unless they do something with that knight, it's checkmate next turn. And so effectively, the opponent is forced to capture. But with that capture, or at least that's what it looks like they're forced to do. The actual other move is, I think, is much more obscure. This other bishop move protecting against that square. Now, the opponent didn't see that. I didn't see that as a potential defense either. With this, again, I saw that it seemed like checkmate was inevitable from what I could calculate. Basically, now I can capture back. And in fact, in this position, there's only potentially one good move, because if the opponent tries to, let's say they don't want to lose their queen, they want to move their queen out of the way, it is again basically checkmate, because let's say the opponent does this, well, this pawn of course is in fact pinned to the king, so that would be check, forced to go here, and then that would be checkmate. So the opponent cannot protect their queen, from what I could see, that they were pretty much forced to capture the bishop if they wanted to last a little bit longer, and the opponent did see that. Queen captures back with check. Opponent slides their king over to h8. Now h7 is better, though, you know, it only delays the agony somewhat, because what I can now do is bring the knight to d5, and pretty much all possible moves here will eventuate in checkmate. Now in the actual game, what happened was the opponent tried to bring their knight forward, but it's to no avail. That's check, and the opponent actually resigned here, because if they didn't resign, they're forced to go here, and it's checkmate the next turn. And so I was very pleased with how this game went. I knew that the Grand Prix attack potentially can really have quite a devastating kingside attack, stripping away the defenses of the king. And that's actually what happened against an opponent that was much higher rated than me at the beginning. So great game. Thank you to opponent. GG. I'm very proud of this game as I spent a long time thinking through some of the moves, and I stayed the course with my overall strategic plan. Even though Stockfish would disapprove of many of my moves, they did the job. I hope you found this video interesting, and thanks for watching.